I met a YouTuber in high school who taught me some of the most important lessons of my teenage years. I was a skinny, insecure high school kid. I'm still skinny, but 6 years later, I ended up teaching the very thing that I learned from him. And I don't think he knows the impact he's had on me. This individual didn't just teach me how to be a ninja, but how to view myself in a different light, more positively, how to own the stage, be proud of my physical appearance, and just accept all of the weird little quirky things about me. So in high school, I played sports, I played volleyball, but I was, garbaggio. No matter how much club or practice or anything I did, just didn't make up for the fact that I was 5'8". And I really wanted to be an outside hitter. I just wasn't outside hitter material. And it didn't help that I was being hazed on a regular basis, especially my freshman year, to the point where they actually had to call a big meeting in about it. It wasn't just me that was experiencing this, but I got a lot of it. I was also having a really hard time with dating. I mean, it's high school, so you can barely even call it dating, but there was always a guy who was bigger, better looking than me, and some of the girls I went out with made a point of letting me know that. And I definitely felt emasculated on more than one occasion. Basically, I had something to prove. I lost interest and ended up quitting volleyball after my sophomore year because I was starting to become more interested in theater, stunts, video making. One of my classmates had a YouTube channel where he just posted short VFX clips. And I remember him freaking out one day because some big YouTuber had commented on one of his videos. His name is Jesse LaFleur. And I looked at it, and I didn't think anything of it other than he had kind of an interesting last name. But after I decided to check out Jesse's channel, everything changed for me. This channel seemed like the perfect inspiration for me to continue along that journey of learning choreography, stunts, things like that. And one of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that he was also a relatively thin guy. I mean, he was muscular, but he wasn't like this huge hulking buff dude. And I really needed to see that, especially after everything I went through in volleyball. Jesse just really seemed to own his physicality. And of course, he wasn't the only parkour teacher out there. There were a lot of people making YouTube videos, but there was something so infectious about his personality. There was clarity to the way he explained things, and he seemed just so genuinely passionate about the subject, about teaching. At the end of the day, no matter how crazy any of his feats seemed, he made you feel like you could do it too. And I really thought that I could. And after some time of following his channel, I saw a video that just completely shifted my mind. How to begin. This video has such an archetypal quality to it. It's been done an infinite number of times in different ways, but this was the version of it that I needed to hear. It resonated with me in such an unbelievable way, and I'll have it linked down below in the description, but these were essentially the points that he was covering. You can only study or prepare so much before you try something. At some point, you just got to try it. You are going to fail. In parkour, this literally means falling and potentially getting injured. And what he was trying to get across is that that's not something to be afraid of. That's actually a completely normal part of the process to be embraced. Before, I was afraid because I didn't want to look stupid, or I would finally realize that I couldn't do anything right. But then I started to understand that this meant I was doing something right because I was screwing it up. As long as I'm paying attention, all of those mess ups are information. They're teaching me how to shift my direction a little bit going forward. One thing that's really awkward about parkour, especially when you're training by yourself, is that you're just out in public and people have no idea what you're doing. They think like you've lost your mind at best, and then at worst, they'll call the police. Obviously, that's a really extreme case, but in most other skills and pastimes, you don't have to worry about this. And the real takeaway was that I just had to not care. I had to pretend that those people didn't exist and go on about my training like it really mattered just to me. And it kind of helped to break me out of my shell. Confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being unapologetically yourself. During the course of following Jesse's channel, I found out that he taught at a gym about an hour and a half away from me. And when I watched the trailer for this gym, I'll link it to you, but my 17-year-old self was just, it's got to be one of the top 10 most inspiring videos I've ever seen. The song that goes with it, I can't hear the song without thinking of this video. Also, shout out to my mom. When she found out that I wanted to take classes here, no hesitation. She signed me up and drove me an hour and a half every Saturday. And that's really special. That's a mother's love right there. Initially, Jesse didn't teach any of my classes, but the first day I had him as an instructor, I remember feeling a little nervous. I'm sure we're familiar with this phrase, never meet your idols, because they're oftentimes not the same in real life as they are online or their, celebrity persona. But he was way cooler in person than he even was in his videos. And while everyone there knew he was a huge YouTuber, it didn't take away from the fact that we were all there to learn. It wasn't a distraction from the work that we were trying to do. Every student, in my classes at least, was very respectful, and he was genuinely an awesome teacher. I'll never forget one class I took with him, and the way in which he went about it is just something I'll carry with me forever. Jesse was teaching us a move called a cat grab, which is basically you run, jump, you hit the wall with your feet, and then grab it with your hands so you can hang. But he started the lesson not by showing us how to do the move, but how to fall out of the move, which actually ended up being scarier in some ways. He told us to run, jump, hit the wall with our feet, and then not grab the ledge, like just fall onto our backs. There was a crash pad beneath us that we could fall onto. So after several turns of doing that, where we fall, he then told us to actually try to grab the wall, and it couldn't have been more effortless. Like the fear of screwing up had been so embraced that success was not even a second thought. There's an entire philosophy behind this. I'll link it in the description as well. It's known as ukemi, which basically covers the art of falling safely. Now, here's a lesson in creativity that I teach to every single one of my students because of Jesse. Jesse taught us a lesson where we side flip off a wall. It's called a Trinity flip. It's the same move that Trinity does in the first Matrix movie. When I was trying it, I was doing it completely wrong, and I can't really see myself. I don't have great spatial awareness when I'm practicing this move, but instead of basically correcting me and telling me how to do it right, Jesse says to me, what you're doing is really interesting, and I think you should go further into that because you might actually be coming up with a new move. This taught me such a valuable lesson about creativity in that there isn't necessarily a right or wrong, that new interesting things come from mistakes or from being open-minded. No matter what I did, it was positively reinforced, and I really treasure that to this day. Now, I never expected this next part to happen. I just did parkour for fun, but it ultimately led to one of the coolest job experiences I've ever had. In one of my college theater classes, a fellow actress worked as a dance instructor. Well, one of her students, their parent ran a small business and they wanted to start their own parkour program. So they needed a teacher. I'll admit, when I was initially hired, I tried to figure out how to quit because I'd never taught before and I felt like it was just so far out of my interest or wheelhouse. But I'm really glad I stuck with it because those little human beings ended up being some of the most inspiring individuals I've ever met in my whole life. And the most important aspect of being a teacher I want to share is while I had kids that were very athletically inclined, those breakthroughs that they had, like the backflips and all those sorts of things, weren't necessarily the most powerful changes that I saw. For me, it was watching a little girl who was too scared to climb up onto a block for fear of being embarrassed, finally jump off the other side and smile because she had done it. It was the little boy who couldn't quite properly do a shoulder roll, but he was moving his body in new and interesting ways that he had never thought he could do before. That's what Jesse taught me about me and what I want to share with others. And that mindset informed my journey as an actor, an esports coach, and a content creator now. About a year ago, I made an Instagram post discussing this topic a little bit, and Jesse actually saw it and commented on it, downplaying his abilities a little bit. And to me, that was just a testament to his ability as an instructor. I think the people who have the most impact sometimes don't realize how much impact they have. He was just passionate about parkour and showing up to do what he did best. But for me, and I'm sure many other young people at the time, it was everything. That is the power of teaching. I doubt Jesse will see this. I've already harassed him online enough. But if you are watching, I want you to know that you taught a skinny, insecure high school kid that he could be more. And he should push himself to accomplish as much as he can in the life that he's given. And to you who's watching this, not Jesse, I know you can too. So thank you for watching this. I'll see you in the next one.